Lieutenant Commander Tessa Breyer stood rigidly before the hologram projector in the dimly lit briefing room aboard the HMS Retaliation. Her crew, a diverse group of seasoned human pilots and engineers, waited in tense silence. The air was thick with anticipation and the low hum of the ship's engines vibrated through the deck. Tessa cleared her throat and began, her voice resolute. Today, we received confirmation from the Galactic Council's media stream, a public execution. General Maddox, our leader and mentor, was hanged by the Galactic Empire. They accused him of war crimes, of actions unbecoming of humanity's stature in the galaxy. But we know the truth. We've all served with him. His only crime was advocating for our rights, for our place at the galactic table as equals. A murmur of anger rippled through the room. Tessa raised her hand to quell the unrest, her gaze sweeping across her crew, each face reflecting a mix of sorrow and fury. We are at a crossroads, she continued. We can submit, let our voices be stifled by fear, or we can fight. Fight not just for revenge, but for our future. For General Maddox. For humanity. From the back, Jack Sarlin, Tessa's second-in-command and a former hacker, spoke up, his voice carrying a mix of determination and pain. They want to scare us into submission. Show us that resistance is futile. But we know better. We've got the Phantom Wing, the finest stealth unit in the fleet. We hit them where it hurts, show them that humans aren't to be trifled with. Tessa nodded, a grim smile flickering across her face. Exactly, Jax. We use what they don't expect against them. We're smaller, but we're agile, cunning, and most importantly, we're righteous in our cause. She turned back to the hologram projector and tapped a few commands. The star map of the galaxy bloomed to life, highlighting strategic points. Our first target is the Empire's communications hub on Viridian 3. It's a linchpin for their operations in this sector. We take that out, we cripple their ability to coordinate a rapid response, buying us the time we need to rally other species to our cause. The crew leaned in, their earlier hesitation replaced by a growing resolve. Jax chimed in. I've already got some leads on potential allies. The Tverians hate the Empire for encroaching on their mining rights. And the Slyfar Confederacy has been looking for an excuse to renegotiate their trade treaties. We help them, they help us. Tessa nodded appreciatively at Jax. Good work. Set up communications with their leaders. We'll need all the help we can get. As the meeting disbanded, Tessa pulled Jax aside. Keep digging into the Empire's networks. Any dirt you can find could be useful to sway the undecided. We need to show the galaxy that the Empire isn't the infallible force it claims to be. Jax's eyes gleamed with a hacker's fervor. You got it, boss. There's plenty they're hiding, I'm sure of it. I'll crack their firewalls and get us what we need. Over the next few days, the Phantom Wing prepared for their mission. They drilled in zero-gravity maneuvers, simulated the attack on the communications hub, and loaded up on the necessary armaments. Tessa watched her crew work, their efficiency a testament to their dedication. Yet beneath her calm exterior, anxiety gnawed at her. The weight of command, the lives at stake, it was a burden she bore stoically. The night before the mission, Tessa visited the ship's memorial hall, a quiet room where the names of fallen comrades were etched into the walls. She traced her fingers over the freshly engraved name of General Maddox. We won't let your death be in vain, she whispered. The following morning, Tessa addressed her crew once more. This is more than a mission. It's the beginning of our testament, our declaration that humanity will not bow down. We strike at dawn. For General Maddox, for humanity, for our freedom. Cheers filled the room, the crew's spirits bolstered by her words. The HMS Retaliation slipped silently into the Viridian system, evading sensors and patrols with the Phantom Wing's advanced cloaking technology. As they neared the target, Tessa took her place in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls. Phantom Wing on my mark, she radioed. The communications hub loomed ahead, a sprawling complex floating against the backdrop of Viridian 3's stormy atmosphere. Tessa counted down. 3, 2, 1, mark! Lasers flared as the Phantom Wing unleashed a coordinated barrage. Explosions rocked the hub, and alarms blared across the enemy channels. Jax, monitoring the communications, grinned. "They're in chaos, Tessa. It's working. The hub's defenses are down." Tessa maneuvered the ship through the debris, her crew following her lead. "All units, move in. Secure the hub. Jam any distress signals. We can't afford any interruptions." The operation was swift, precise. Within hours, the communications hub was under human control, a significant blow to the Empire's operations. As they set course back to their hidden base, Tessa allowed herself a brief smile. This victory was just the beginning, but it was a start. A start to a war for justice, for equality, and for the recognition of humanity's indomitable spirit. As Tessa Breyer and her crew celebrated their victory at Viridian 3, they knew the war was just beginning. The communications hub was just the first target, a bold statement of intent, but the real challenge lay in rallying others to their cause. The galaxy was vast and filled with species both oppressed and indifferent. Tessa understood that their next move was crucial. It was time to turn victories into alliances. Back aboard the HMS Retaliation, Tessa convened a strategy meeting with her senior officers, including Jax, who had just returned from a scouting mission. "We've struck a blow," Tessa began, her voice firm yet infused with a note of urgency. "But one victory doesn't win a war. We need allies, and we need them now. Jax, what do you have for us?" Jax nodded, activating the room's holographic display. "Two prospects look promising. The Tverians and the Slyfar Confederacy. The Tverians have been squeezed by the Empire for decades, their mineral resources exploited without fair compensation. They're ripe for rebellion. And the Slyfar?" Tessa inquired, her brow furrowed. "They're trickier," Jax admitted. "Politically cautious, but they despise how the Empire monopolizes trade routes. I suggest we offer them protection for their trade convoys in exchange for resources and intelligence." Tessa considered this, then turned to the rest of her team. "Prepare a diplomatic envoy. I'll lead the mission to the Tverians myself. Jax, you handle the Slyfar. We play to our strengths." As preparations went underway, Tessa pulled aside her communications officer, Lieutenant Mara. "Broadcast our victory at Viridian 3 across all underground channels. Let the galaxy know that humanity is not to be underestimated. Inspire others to join us." The message went out, and soon, responses trickled in, messages of support, and more importantly, cries for help from other oppressed systems. Tessa's plan was working, the seeds of a larger rebellion were sprouting. Days later, Tessa and a small team landed on Tvar, the capital planet of the Tverians. The atmosphere was tense. The city was a blend of towering structures and sprawling slums, reflecting the inequality imposed by the Empire. They were escorted to a meeting with the Tverian Council under heavy guard, a reminder of the stakes involved. Commander Breyer, the Tverian leader, a towering figure with rugged features, greeted her. "Your actions have been noted. Why should we risk open war with the Empire by joining you?" Tessa met his gaze, her resolve clear. "Because together, we can achieve what neither of us can alone. You have resources, we have tactical prowess. The Empire has exploited both our peoples. It's time to reclaim what is rightfully ours." The leader nodded slowly, considering her words. "And what of the Empire's retaliation? They will not sit idly by. We will protect you," Tessa promised. "Phantom Wing is just the beginning. We are already growing in numbers and strength. With your help, we can secure more strategic victories." After intense negotiations, the Tverian Council agreed to a conditional alliance. They would provide resources and shelter to human forces in exchange for military protection and a share in the governance of liberated systems. Meanwhile, Jax's mission to the Slyfar Confederacy was bearing fruit as well. His offer to secure their trade routes in exchange for resources and intelligence appealed to the Slyfar's mercantile nature. They agreed to a secret pact, providing the human rebellion with much-needed supplies and information on Empire movements. With two significant alliances secured, Tessa's strategy began to take shape. The rebellion was no longer a series of isolated skirmishes but a coordinated movement across multiple systems. However, success came with heightened risk. The Empire, stung by the loss of Viridian III and the growing unrest, launched a series of brutal crackdowns. Entire planets were placed under martial law, and the Empire's secret police, the Ordo Imperialis, began a merciless hunt for Tessa and her allies. Tessa received word of these developments while aboard the HMS Retaliation. Her face hardened as she read the reports of massacres and arrests. "They're trying to crush us," she said to her crew, her voice steely. "But we will not break. Prepare for the next phase. We go on the offensive." The crew rallied around her, their morale bolstered by the alliances and victories they had achieved. Tessa looked out at the stars, her determination unwavering. "This galaxy belongs to all its peoples," she declared. "We fight not just for humanity, but for every species oppressed by the Empire. We fight for freedom, for justice, and for a future where fear no longer rules us." As the HMS Retaliation set course for their next target, a heavily fortified Empire armory, Tessa knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But she also knew that the seeds of rebellion had taken root, growing stronger by the day. The galaxy was watching, and it was time to show them what humanity was capable of. With each victory, each alliance, they were not just defying the Empire, they were rewriting the future of the galaxy. The dim glow of the tactical displays bathed the command deck of the HMS Retaliation in a soft blue light as Tessa Breyer and her crew prepared for what was to be one of the most significant battles of their campaign. With new alliances bolstering their ranks and supplies secured, Tessa felt the weight of expectation pressing upon her. The upcoming battle over Kanara Station, a critical Empire military outpost, was more than just a strategic target. It was a statement. Victory here would signal to the galaxy that the human-led rebellion was a formidable force. Tessa addressed her assembled officers, her voice steady yet charged with urgency. "This station controls traffic between 3 major sectors. It's the lifeline for the Empire's logistics and command communications. We sever this, and we cripple their operational capabilities significantly." Jax, who had been coordinating with their new allies, chimed in with an update. "The Tverians have agreed to cause distractions along the perimeter sectors. This will pull some of the Empire's fleet away from Kinara. The Slyfar have smuggled in extra cloaking devices for our smaller crafts. We'll be ghosts until we strike." Nodding, Tessa turned her attention to the holographic model of Kanara Station orbiting a desolate moon. "Our approach will be in 2 waves. The first, led by me, will focus on disabling their defensive grids. The second wave will secure the station's command center and data vaults. Remember, this is a surgical strike. In and out. We cannot afford a prolonged battle." As the fleet maneuvered into position, hidden by the shadow of the moon, Tessa felt the familiar thrill of battle edge its way into her veins. Her pilot's hands were steady on the controls as the first wave of ships, cloaked and silent, began their approach. The operation commenced without a hitch. The Empire's sensors were blinded by sophisticated jamming techniques, a testament to Jax's hacking prowess. Tessa's ship, along with a dozen others, breached the station's outer defenses before they could even raise their shields. Explosions dotted the hull of the station as precise strikes from the human ships disabled the Empire's defensive turrets. "Defenses are down," Tessa reported, her voice a calm beacon over the commotion. "Second wave, move in!" But as the second wave of ships began their run, a sudden burst of encrypted communications crackled through Jax's station. His eyes widened. "Tessa, we've got incoming! A hidden fleet, they were lying in wait." Tessa's resolve hardened. "All units, prepare for combat. This is not a drill. We stand and fight. We win here today, for humanity." What followed was a fierce confrontation, as the hidden Empire fleet emerged from behind the moon. The battle was chaotic, a melange of laser fire and evasive maneuvers. Tessa's leadership shone, as she directed her forces with precision, turning what could have been a massacre into a manageable fight. Amidst the fray, Tessa caught sight of an Empire cruiser bearing down on a Tverian frigate. Without hesitation, she piloted her ship between them, absorbing the brunt of the cruiser's fire, saving the frigate but leaving her own ship critically damaged. Jax's voice came through, strained but determined. "We've got an opening! Their commander is on that cruiser. Tessa, can you get us close?" Gritting her teeth against the alarms blaring around her, Tessa pushed her damaged ship to its limits. "On your mark, Jax!" As they neared the cruiser, Jax unleashed a barrage of cyber attacks, crippling the cruiser's shields momentarily. Tessa used the opening, launching all remaining torpedoes directly at the cruiser's command deck. The explosion was blinding, and when the light cleared, the cruiser was drifting, lifeless in space. With their commander's ship disabled, confusion rippled through the Empire's ranks. Seizing the moment, the rebellion's forces rallied, pushing the Empire's fleet back with renewed vigor. Kanara Station, now vulnerable without the protection of its fleet, quickly fell to the second wave. In the aftermath of the battle, Tessa's ship limped back towards the station, scarred but victorious. The cost had been high, but the victory was undeniable. Tessa addressed her crew, pride and sorrow mingling in her voice. "You've fought with honor and bravery. Today, we've shown the galaxy that we will not be oppressed. We will not be silenced." As engineers worked to repair the damages and medics tended to the wounded, Tessa looked out at the stars. Kanara Station was just one more step towards their goal, a free galaxy. But each victory brought them closer, each battle forged them stronger. And as the HMS Retaliation docked with the newly captured Kanara Station, Tessa knew that their fight was far from over. But with each triumph, the dream of peace and equality across the galaxy grew clearer. She turned to her crew, a determined glint in her eyes. "Rest up, team. Our journey continues. And I promise you, we are going to win this war." In the aftermath of their victory at Kanara Station, the mood among Tessa Breyer's crew was one of cautious optimism. They had struck a significant blow against the Galactic Empire, but Tessa knew the hardest part of their journey still lay ahead. The Empire would not take this defeat lightly, and retribution was inevitable. As they regrouped and planned their next move, the specter of an intense counterattack loomed large. Back on the HMS Retaliation, now orbiting a hidden base on the fringe of the asteroid belt of Delara, Tessa convened her senior officers for a strategic briefing. "The Empire will retaliate, and they will do so with overwhelming force," she began, her voice tinged with the fatigue of endless battles. "Our victory at Kanara has bought us time, but it has also painted a target on our backs." Jax interjected, his eyes locked on the data scrolling through his tablet. "Intelligence suggests the Empire is mobilizing a task force unlike any we've seen. They're calling it the Hammer of Viekern, named after the Emperor himself. It's said to be headed by Admiral Creel, one of the Empire's most ruthless commanders." Tessa nodded gravely. "Then we prepare to face them head-on. We cannot afford to lose the momentum now. How are our new allies holding up?" "Tverians are fortifying their positions, and the Slyfar have increased their intel sharing," Jax reported. "But there's unrest among some of the newer factions. Fear of the Empire's wrath is spreading." Understanding the fragility of their alliance, Tessa decided to take a bold step to unite her forces. "Schedule a summit. Bring all our allies together. It's time we stand united, not just in battle, but in purpose. We are fighting for our freedom, for the right to live as equals in this galaxy. It's time everyone remembers that." As the summit commenced, representatives from various species gathered, each with their own grievances and fears about the ongoing conflict. Tessa addressed the crowded room, her presence commanding. "We've come far together, but the road ahead is fraught with peril. The Empire seeks not just to defeat us but to crush our spirit. We must not let them. Today, I ask for a unified front, in resources, in resolve, and in spirit. Together, we are more than just a rebellion, we are a beacon of hope." The summit was a turning point, solidifying the resolve of the disparate groups. Plans were drawn, strategies formulated, and a collective defense pact was signed. But as they fortified their positions, preparing for the inevitable onslaught, the Empire struck. Without warning, the Hammer of Viekern descended upon one of the rebellion's key supply lines. The attack was brutal and swift. Tessa, leading from the front, scrambled her forces to respond. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Tessa watched as ships piloted by her newfound allies and friends were torn apart under the relentless assault of the Empire's elite forces. Amidst the chaos, a direct hit to the Retaliation's engine room left them drifting dangerously close to an asteroid field. The situation was dire, but Tessa's voice over the comm remained calm and resolute. "All hands brace for impact. Engineers, I need those engines back online now." As her crew fought to regain control of the ship, Tessa's tactical mind raced for solutions. They were outgunned and outmaneuvered. In a desperate bid, she ordered a feint retreat, luring a segment of the Empire's fleet into the asteroid field. The gamble paid off. The Empire's ships, less agile than the Retaliation, suffered heavy damage navigating the dense asteroid cluster. With the Empire temporarily at bay, Tessa seized the opportunity to regroup her forces. She sent out a rallying call across all channels. "This is Lieutenant Commander Breyer. The Empire thinks they can break us by breaking our spirit. I say no. We regroup, we fight back, and we turn their weapons against them. Today, we show them what it means to fight for a cause worth more than their empire could ever offer." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships from across the rebellion spectrum converged, forming a new line of defense. Bolstered by the courage of their commander and united by a common cause, the rebel forces mounted a counteroffensive. As the battle raged, Tessa's leadership shone. Under her command, the rebel forces began to turn the tide, using the Empire's overconfidence and lack of maneuverability against them. The hammer of Viekern, caught in the chaos of the asteroid field and under continuous assault, began to falter. In the climax of the battle, with the Empire's forces in disarray, Tessa led a daring assault on the flagship of Admiral Creel. Boarding the ship with a select team, she confronted the Admiral. "Your reign of terror ends today," she declared, as her team secured the bridge. "The galaxy no longer fears you." With the capture of Admiral Creel and the symbolic defeat of the Hammer of Viekern, the message was clear: the rebellion was a force to be reckoned with. As Tessa returned to her ship, her crew and allies cheered, their morale boosted by the victory they had snatched from the jaws of defeat. Though the war was far from over, that day, under Tessa's indomitable leadership, they had not just survived, they had thrived. They had shown the galaxy that when united, they could face the might of the Empire and emerge victorious. The fight for freedom and equality was just beginning, and Tessa Breyer was ready to lead them every step of the way. The silence after the battle was deafening. The HMS Retaliation drifted alongside the captured Empire flagship, its hull scorched, its systems barely holding together. Tessa Breyer stood on the bridge, her uniform torn, her expression hard but triumphant. She leaned against the command console, addressing her crew and allies through the intercom. "This victory belongs to all of us," she began, her voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. "We've shown the Empire that their arrogance is their weakness. We've taken their mightiest fleet, and we've proven that the oppressed will not remain silent. But this is not the end. It's a message, a warning. The war is far from over." Cheers erupted across the comm channels, but Tessa knew the weight of what lay ahead. The Empire was wounded, but it was far from defeated. As the crew worked to stabilize the ship, Jax appeared at her side, tablet in hand, his face lit with urgency. "Tessa, we've pulled critical data from the flagship's systems. It's a goldmine. Fleet movements, supply routes, even details of a secret project. They're working on something big, a weapon, unlike anything we've seen before." Tessa narrowed her eyes. "A weapon? What kind of weapon?" "Codenamed Dominion. From what I've deciphered, it's some kind of planet-scale suppression device. If they deploy it, entire worlds could fall under their control without a single shot fired." Her stomach tightened. The stakes had just escalated. "Where is it being developed?" Jax tapped the tablet, pulling up a holographic map. "A facility deep in the Rithan Nebula. It's heavily fortified, practically a fortress. But if we hit it now, while they're reeling, we might have a chance." Tessa straightened, the fatigue momentarily forgotten. "Then we don't wait. Prepare the fleet. We move as soon as the ships are battle-ready. The decision was bold, almost reckless, but it was the only choice. Tessa knew that hesitation could cost them everything. Over the next few hours, the fleet was repaired and resupplied. Their remaining forces rallied for what would be the most daring mission of the rebellion. As the ships entered the Rhythm Nebula, the glowing clouds of ionized gas cast an eerie light over the fleet. Tessa sat in the captain's chair, scanning the tactical display. The facility loomed ahead, a monstrous structure surrounded by layers of defenses, mines, automated turrets, and a patrol fleet already mobilizing to intercept them. "All units, listen up," Tessa said, her voice cutting through the tension. "This is it. We're taking the fight to their doorstep. No matter what happens, we hold the line. Humanity doesn't bow. Not today, not ever." The fleet surged forward, splitting into squadrons to tackle the defenses. The opening salvo was brutal. Mines detonated in fiery bursts, and the Empire's turrets rained down a storm of energy bolts. Tessa's ship led the charge, weaving through the chaos, returning fire with precision. Despite the overwhelming odds, her calm commands kept the fleet coordinated. "Jack's status on the facility's shields?" she asked, dodging a blast that narrowly missed the retaliation. "Still holding," he replied, furiously typing on his console. "We need to disable the main power generator, but it's inside the core." Tessa's mind raced. They needed a ground assault, but breaching the facility would be suicide without a distraction. An idea struck her. "Jax, prep a strike team. I'll lead it myself. Get me schematics of the core." He looked up, alarmed. "Tessa, you can't. You're the commander. If something happens..." "That's exactly why I have to. If we lose this fight, it's over, Jax. This is bigger than me." Reluctantly, he nodded. "I'll guide you from here. Be careful." Tessa rallied her team and boarded a dropship, weaving through the battle above as they descended toward the facility. The landing was rough, the atmosphere crackling with interference from the nebula. They breached the perimeter, encountering heavy resistance as they fought their way inside. Every step was a battle. The halls echoed with the clash of blaster fire and the shouts of her team. Despite the chaos, Tessa remained focused, her every decision calculated. They reached the core, a massive chamber pulsating with energy, but it was guarded by an elite squad of Empire soldiers. "Cover me!" Tessa shouted as she sprinted toward the central console. Her team held the line, trading fire with the enemy as she worked to override the system. Jax's voice crackled in her earpiece. "You're in. Just a few more commands and the shields will drop." The console blared an alert. Tessa glanced at the countdown on the display. Self-destruct protocols had been activated. "Jax, they're triggering a meltdown. How much time do we have?" "Not enough," he replied grimly. "You need to get out of there. Now." She hesitated, torn between escaping and ensuring the mission succeeded. "Not without those shields down. We came here to finish this." With seconds to spare, Tessa completed the override, the shields collapsing as the facility began to shake violently. "Shields are down," she yelled. "All units, focus fire on the core. Bring this place down." Her team fought their way back to the dropship, the facility crumbling around them. Explosions lit the sky as the fleet unleashed its full firepower on the now vulnerable structure. The Dominion project was obliterated in a blinding inferno, the shockwave rippling through the nebula. As the dropship ascended, Tessa collapsed into a seat, her body aching but her spirit unbroken. The rebellion had struck a devastating blow, but the cost was steep. Lives had been lost, and the scars of battle ran deep. Yet as she looked out at the stars, she felt a glimmer of hope. Back on the Retaliation, Tessa addressed her crew and allies. "We've faced the impossible and emerged victorious. The Empire's power is not absolute. They can be beaten. But this fight isn't just about survival, it's about building a future where no one lives in fear." The room erupted in applause, their unity stronger than ever. Though the path ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: the rebellion was no longer just a flicker of resistance. It was a blazing fire, a force capable of reshaping the galaxy. And Tessa Breyer, resolute and unwavering, would lead them to the end, no matter what it took.